My wife shouted. My life will run on my terms now. You're free. She said this the very next day after winning $9 million. I calmly replied, all right. Just make sure you read that prenup your parents made me sign before the wedding. I'm 34 years old, and I've been married to Lauren for 6 years. We met in college, got serious fast, and honestly, I thought we'd figured out the whole partnership thing. I work as a structural engineer, she's a marketing consultant, and we built what I thought was a solid life together in Portland. Lauren came from money, not obscene wealth, but her parents owned a successful chain of boutique hotels across the Pacific Northwest. My background was decidedly middle class. My dad was a high school teacher, my mom worked at the county clerk's office. When Lauren and I got engaged, her parents insisted on a prenup. It stung at the time, but I understood their position. They'd worked hard for what they had, and they wanted to protect their daughter's inheritance. The document was straightforward. Any assets either of us brought into the marriage stayed separate. Any inheritance she received remained hers alone, and we'd split anything we built together 50-50. I signed it without argument because I loved Lauren, not her family's bank account. The irony is that Lauren barely spoke to her parents after we got married. They disapproved of me from the start. Too ordinary, too blue-collar in my origins, not ambitious enough in their eyes. She'd chosen me anyway, and for years, that felt like enough. We had our struggles like any couple. She worked long hours, I traveled occasionally for project sites, and we'd fallen into that comfortable but slightly distant rhythm that happens when life gets routine. But I never questioned that we were fundamentally on the same team. 3 months ago, Lauren started playing the lottery. Not obsessively, just a ticket here and there when the jackpot got big. She'd joke about what we'd do with millions, travel through Southeast Asia, buy a cabin in the mountains, maybe start the photography business she'd always dreamed about. I'd laugh along, playing the game, never actually believing it would happen. Last Tuesday, it happened. I was at a job site in Eugene when she called me at 2 in the afternoon. Her voice sounded strange, high-pitched, and breathless. I need you to come home right now. My stomach dropped. What's wrong? Are you okay? Just come home. I can't talk about this over the phone. I made the 90-minute drive in 70 minutes, my mind racing through every possible disaster. When I walked through the door, Lauren was sitting at our kitchen table with her laptop open, surrounded by crumpled lottery tickets. Her face was flushed, and her hands were shaking. I won, she said. The Powerball. I actually won. I stared at her. Won what? $9.2 million. After taxes, it'll be about $6 million. She turned the laptop toward me, showing an official lottery website with numbers that matched the ticket clutched in her hand. The next few hours were a blur. We called the lottery commission, verified everything 3 times, and Lauren scheduled an appointment to claim the prize. We didn't tell anyone else. She wanted to wait until the money was actually in her account. That night, we ordered Thai food and sat on our couch in stunned silence, occasionally looking at each other and laughing in disbelief. She held my hand and said, "This changes everything, doesn't it?" I agreed, thinking she meant we'd finally have financial security, maybe pay off the mortgage early, travel more. I was completely wrong about what she meant. The lottery commission moved fast. By Friday afternoon, the money was deposited into an account Lauren set up. Just hers. She came home from the bank with a strange energy I'd never seen before, wired, almost manic. She paced around our living room while I made dinner, talking rapidly about investments and opportunities and freedom. I tried to engage, asking questions about her plans, but she barely seemed to hear me. Saturday morning, I woke up to find her already dressed in expensive new clothes I'd never seen before, a designer outfit that probably cost more than our monthly mortgage. She was standing by the window with her coffee, staring out at our neighborhood like she was seeing it for the first time and finding it lacking. "We need to talk," she said without turning around. I sat up, my heart sinking. "Okay." She took a long breath, still not looking at me. "I've been thinking about my life, about what I want, and I've realized something. I've been living according to everyone else's expectations for too long. My parents' expectations, society's expectations, even yours. Mine." The word came out sharper than I intended. "This marriage," she continued, finally looking at me with eyes that seemed to look through me rather than at me. "It's been fine. You're a good person. But I never got to figure out who I really am, what I really want. I got with you at 22, married at 28, and I just went along with it all. My mouth went dry. What are you saying? I'm saying that I have the resources now to live life on my own terms. I can travel, explore, figure myself out without being tied down to routines and responsibilities that never felt truly mine. My life will run on my terms now. You're free too. Free from being married to someone who isn't fully present, who isn't sure this is what she wants. She said it like she was granting me some generous gift, like she was the noble one for releasing me. The audacity of it hit me like ice water. 6 years of marriage, and she was ending it the day after winning the lottery, framing it as mutual liberation. I felt anger rising in my chest, hot and sharp, but I forced myself to keep my voice level and calm. All right, I said slowly, watching her face. Just make sure you read that prenup your parents made me sign before the wedding. Her expression flickered, confusion, then something like alarm. What does that have to do with anything? Everything, actually. The prenup your parents insisted on specifies that any inheritance you receive remains yours alone. Very clear on that point. But lottery winnings aren't inheritance, Lauren. They're considered marital assets in Oregon unless specifically protected by a separate agreement, which ours isn't. Since we're still married and you won while we were married, I'm legally entitled to half of it. The color drained from her face completely. She set her coffee cup down with a trembling hand. That's not. You can't. That can't be right. I can, and it is. You should check with a lawyer if you don't believe me. Actually, I already did. I called my cousin Brian yesterday. He practices family law in Seattle. He confirmed everything. You win the lottery while married. It's community property unless there's specific documentation saying otherwise. Your parents were very thorough about protecting your inheritance, but they didn't think about this scenario. She stared at me like I'd transformed into someone she didn't recognize. So what? You're just going to take my money? Money that I won with my ticket? Money we won, legally speaking. But no, I'm not interested in taking anything that you won. Here's what's actually going to happen. You're going to sit down, and we're going to have an actual conversation about our marriage, like adults who made vows to each other. If you genuinely want a divorce after that conversation, after we've really talked about what's wrong and whether it can be fixed, then fine. But you're not going to blow up 6 years together the second you don't financially need me anymore and act like you're nobly setting me free. Lauren's face went through several expressions in rapid succession. Shock, anger, something that looked like calculation. Finally, she sat down heavily on the edge of the bed, her expensive new outfit creasing. This is exactly what I'm talking about. You're trying to control me, manipulate me into staying. I'm trying to get you to be honest. With me and with yourself. If you wanted out of this marriage 3 months ago, before the money, I'd be devastated, but I'd respect your decision. But you didn't want out. You were perfectly fine with us until you suddenly had the means to start over somewhere exotic with unlimited possibilities. And now I'm just an inconvenience you're repackaging as a mutual liberation story. She looked away, her jaw tight. Maybe I was afraid to admit I was unhappy before. Maybe the money just gave me the courage to be honest. Were you unhappy? Really? I moved to sit across from her, trying to catch her eyes. Because from where I was standing, we were in a comfortable routine. Not fireworks every single day, but solid. Partners. Friends. If there were serious problems, you never said a single word about them. I shouldn't have to say anything. You should just know when something's wrong. That made my anger flare again. That's not how marriages work, Lauren. We're not mind readers. We're supposed to communicate. If you've been miserable and hiding it, I deserve to know before you won millions of dollars and decided to trade me in for a better model. She was quiet for a long moment, picking at the fabric of her new pants. When she spoke again, her voice was smaller, almost guilty. I talked to my parents yesterday, right after the money cleared. There it was, the missing piece. And what did they say? They said I should make a clean break before the money gets distributed into joint accounts or spent on joint purchases. They said you'd try to claim half of it, and that I should protect myself and get out now while I still can. She finally looked at me, and there was something that might have been shame in her eyes. They've never liked you. You know that. They said this was my chance to start fresh with someone more suitable to my new situation. The pieces clicked together with painful clarity. So this wasn't really about freedom or finding yourself or living authentically. Your parents got in your head the second they found out about the money, didn't they? They have a point, though. We do come from different worlds. Maybe we were never going to work long term. Maybe we've just been delaying the inevitable. I felt something break inside my chest, but I kept my voice steady through sheer force of will. Different worlds. After 6 years of marriage, that's what you're going with. Lauren, I've spent 6 years building a life with you. I've sat through countless dinners where your parents made subtle digs about my career, my background, my prospects. I've watched you work yourself into exhaustion trying to prove something to them that they'll never acknowledge. And the second they offer you an exit ramp paved with gold, you take it without even questioning whether it's what you actually want. Tears started running down her face, smudging her carefully applied makeup. I don't know what I want anymore. I just know I feel trapped and suffocated. Then say that. Say you feel trapped, and we can work on it. We can go to counseling, take a trip, figure out what's missing. But don't dress it up as liberation and self-discovery when you're really just doing exactly what your parents want you to do. Again. She wiped her eyes angrily with the back of her hand. And what do you want? To force me to stay in a marriage I'm not sure about anymore. No. I want you to take more than 12 hours to make a decision that affects both of our lives permanently. I want you to figure out if this is really what you want or if you're just panicked and listening to the wrong people. I want you to remember who we were before your parents got involved. We sat in heavy silence. Outside, I could hear our neighbor mowing his lawn, cars passing on the street, kids shouting as they played. Normal Saturday, sounds that felt surreal given what was happening inside our bedroom. Finally, Lauren spoke, her voice barely above a whisper. If I wanted to try counseling, would you actually go? Would you really try? Yes. Even after I basically said I wanted to leave you for a better life? Even after that. Because I think you're scared and confused, not actually done with us. But I need you to be honest with yourself about why you're really feeling this way and who's influencing you. She nodded slowly, wiping at her eyes again. My parents want to have lunch with me tomorrow. They want to talk about financial planning and next steps. I'm sure they do. Will you come with me? That genuinely surprised me. You want me there? I want them to see that I'm capable of making my own decisions. Not theirs, not yours. Mine. She looked at me directly for the first time that morning, and I could see the conflict in her expression. I don't know if counseling will fix whatever's broken between us. I don't know if I'm going to wake up tomorrow and still want the same things. But you're right that I owe us more than 12 hours and a dramatic speech about freedom. I didn't trust it completely. The wound was too fresh, her words from earlier still echoing, but it was something. A crack in the wall she'd built overnight. Okay, I'll come. The lunch on Sunday was exactly as uncomfortable as I'd expected, maybe worse. Her parents chose an upscale restaurant downtown, the kind of place where their regulars and the staff knows their drink orders. Her father, Gerald, spent the first 15 minutes talking about investment strategies and wealth management firms while her mother, Patricia, made pointed comments about how overwhelming sudden wealth must be for someone without experience managing significant assets. The subtext was clear. I wasn't equipped to help Lauren handle this money. Finally, Lauren set down her fork with enough force to make it clink loudly against her plate. I'm not divorcing him. Patricia's fork paused halfway to her mouth, hovering there. Excuse me. You heard me. We're going to counseling. I'm going to figure out what I actually want, not what you think I should want or who you think I should be with. Gerald's face hardened into the expression I'd seen countless times before, disapproval masked as concern. Lauren, we discussed this yesterday. You have an opportunity to. To what exactly? Trade in my husband like a used car because you never approved of him? Because he doesn't come from the right family or have the right connections. I'm 32 years old. I get to decide how I live my life. With $6 million that could disappear into a failed marriage, Patricia said sharply, her polite veneer cracking. We're trying to protect you from making an emotional decision you'll regret for the rest of your life. I spoke up for the first time since we'd sat down. The money's protected either way. If Lauren and I divorce tomorrow or in 5 years, we split things fairly according to the law. That's what the prenup ensures for premarital assets. What you're really worried about is that she'll spend her lottery money building a life with someone you don't think is good enough for your daughter. Patricia's eyes narrowed dangerously. We're worried she'll wake up at 40 and realize she's settled for comfort instead of reaching for what she deserves. I didn't settle, Lauren said, and her voice was shaking with an emotion I couldn't quite identify. I chose him. I keep choosing him. And I'm tired of you implying that my choices are mistakes that need to be corrected. Gerald leaned forward. We just want you to have every opportunity. No, you want me to have the opportunities you approve of. There's a difference. Lauren stood up, her napkin falling to the floor. We're leaving. The rest of the lunch ended abruptly. We left before anyone ordered dessert, and Lauren didn't speak until we were in the car, pulling out of the parking lot. Her hands were gripping the steering wheel so tightly her knuckles were white. I think I've been trying to prove something to them my entire life, she said quietly, staring straight ahead at the road. That I'm successful enough, married to the right person, living the right kind of life according to their standards. And it's exhausting. The money just made me think I could finally stop trying, just run away from everything and start over where no one knew me or had expectations. I know, but that's not freedom, is it? That's just running away from problems instead of dealing with them. Probably not. I do want counseling. Real, honest counseling where we figure out if we actually work together or if we've just been coasting on momentum and habit. Okay, we'll find someone good. We started seeing Dr. Hammond the following week. The sessions were harder than I'd expected. We talked about communication breakdowns, unmet expectations, the ways we'd both checked out of the marriage in small ways over the years without even realizing it. Lauren admitted she'd been feeling disconnected for months, but hadn't known how to address it without sounding ungrateful or difficult. I admitted I'd been so focused on my career and proving myself at work that I'd missed obvious signs she was struggling with more than just job stress. The money had just been a catalyst, Dr. Hammond explained, exposing cracks in our foundation that were already there, but easy to ignore when life was predictable and routine. 3 months later, we're still together. Still going to therapy every 2 weeks, still working through layers of issues we'd let build up. Lauren took a 6-month sabbatical from her marketing job to figure out what she actually wants to do with her life. Turns out it's documentary photography, and she's been taking incredible, heart-wrenching photos of Portland's homeless community for a project she's pitching to local advocacy groups. We're planning a trip to Japan next spring, something we always talked about but never prioritized because there was always some reason to wait. The money sits mostly untouched in conservative investment accounts. We paid off the house and set up a trust for future kids if we decide to have them. But otherwise, we're living basically the same life we had before the lottery. Lauren talks to her parents about once a month now, short phone calls that are civil but distant. I think they're still waiting for her to come to her senses and leave me, still expecting this to be a phase she grows out of. Maybe she will eventually. Maybe this is just a detour on the way to an inevitable divorce. Maybe in 5 years we'll be splitting assets and moving on to separate lives. But if that happens, it'll be because we actually tried everything and it genuinely didn't work, not because her parents convinced her she could buy her way out of commitment the moment things got complicated. The other day, Lauren showed me a photo she'd taken of an elderly couple holding hands on a park bench in Waterfront Park. Their faces were weathered, their clothes ordinary, but something about the way they sat together radiated a quiet contentment that was almost tangible in the image. "This is what I want," she said softly, studying the photo on her camera screen. "Not perfect or exciting or Instagram-worthy. Just present. Still choosing each other even when it's not convenient or thrilling anymore. When the newness has worn off and you're left with just the reality of another person." I looked at the photo, at the worn wedding rings visible on both their hands, at the comfortable silence between them that spoke of decades together. "Yeah," I said and meant it. "That's worth sticking around for. That's worth the hard work." She squeezed my hand, and for the first time in months, it felt like we might actually make it to our own park bench someday.